Good morning and welcome to this week's reading. This reading came in a little bit of a different way, and so I feel that the whole energy and the whole vibe of this week's reading is gentler, it's quieter, and it comes from a place that many of us maybe have been seeking. So the title that came for this one is When You Stop Chasing and You Pause, What Will Spirit Whisper? And when I asked that question, this was actually what came as kind of the introduction for this reading. We watch in wonder as people speak of awakening and of meeting spirit. We wait excitedly for the process to begin. We wait. No one shows up. We watch again. We hear people speak of great downloads and promises for the future. We wait. Again, no one shows up. Why? Where are the people? We watch, and what we see are people chasing. What are they chasing? They say they're chasing answers. They say they're chasing dreams. They say they're chasing us. Why? Why do they chase us? There is no need to chase us. We are here. We have always been here. We will always be here. We wait. We listen. We watch. We know. When they chase, they close their hearts, their eyes, their ears, and their spirit. They lock themselves away. In the chasing, they are waiting. What are they waiting for? They say they're waiting for the right moment, the right process, the right guide that will show them the way to make us appear. Why? We are here, have always been here, and will always be here. Why chase? Chasing only makes noise. Chasing only constricts. We live in the quiet. We live in the open. Where we live, there is no need to chase. So we wait and we watch until you are ready. We will continue to live here in the moments when you are just waking or just falling asleep. In these moments, we approach. We come in wisps of song. We come in snips of dreams. We come in soft touches. We come in unseen presence. Chase us and we flee. Pause. Be quiet, and we stay. Will you choose to let these magic moments unfold? It, it's interesting because when this was kind of revealing itself to me, I I started to kind of understand that, yeah, there's always this need to chase after, in for me at least, like that, what's the next course? What's the next event? What's the next process? What's the next person? What's the next thing I can learn? What's the next thing I can tap into? I dropped a card. I'll be right back. This will be interesting because this is the first card we've had fly out, but this one literally dropped. So this is dropping in for us. And it kind of started for me with just a wisp of a song. And I woke up one morning and I just heard this song. And when I turned to it, trying to see if I could get a clearer hearing of what was going on, it just disappeared. And that was kind of the seed for this spread. It's about understanding that spirit has no need to be loud, has no need to be sought, right? And so when this one came in, I was like, I think a lot of people need to kind of hear this one. So taking that message that came through, the purpose for today's reading is to find ways to pause and to create pathways so that we can listen, pathways to silence that show spirit that we are ready to meet them. So the question that I'm shuffling into the cards right now is, what will help you pause so you can meet spirit at the threshold? What will help you pause so you can meet spirit at the threshold? So just this, here we go. Cards all set up. All right. And 5 cards, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, what will help you pause so you can meet spirit at the threshold? And the first card that we have asks, where in your life is spirit looking to land? So here we have the Knight of Swords. And spirit is looking to land to you in communication, right? Like so the Knight of Swords is active communication. So spirit is here. It is around us. It is trying to convey a message to us. And one of the reasons why maybe the message is getting befuddled or confused is that if we're constantly seeking, we're constantly trying to interpret instead of allowing things to land. And it's the same thing with the cards, right? When we look at the cards, we look first at, oh, this is the Knight of Swords. And what Spirit is really kind of asking us to do is like, what is it the first thing in the card that catches you? That is our message. And when I look at the card myself, the first thing that comes through is all of the feathers and the wing patterns that is tattooed on our knight's face. And so when you look at that, it reminds me of wings of the birds and the messages that birds can bring. What's really interesting about this is my son yesterday was telling me that there's some studies they've been doing in Japan that have found that I think they said it was the Japanese tit, I think is what he was saying. They've been studying it and they find that it has a language and that the other birds and the other animals around it actually understand the intent of the language, maybe not the language per se. Where I live, I have lots of blue jays, and I knew that myself, that birds have a language. They speak, they have a sense of being able to speak to each other. And one of the things that he said from this study was it actually showed that birds have grammar in the way that they communicate. And so looking at our Knight of Swords and asking, like, where is it that spirit is looking to land? And spirit is looking to land in ways that we can understand communication outside of what we're used to. It's almost like spirit is coming to say, we speak in a different language than what you speak. And so it's looking to where's the softness? Where's the imagery? Where is the ability to think in abstract, to think in non I want to say hard facts kind of thing, right? So the Knight of Swords again is part of the swords, which is part of the air. No one can see the air, but we feel it on our skin when the wind blows, or we know it's there because we breathe it in and we're still alive. And that's what this spirit is trying to land in, is this idea that there's no need to chase after it. There's no need to doubt that it's there. It's there, and we just have to be able to understand how it's there for us. The next one asks, where in your life is there too much clutter? And this comes into the chasing, right? Like we fill our lives with so many different things that the spaces where spirit can exist and be open is very limited, right? And so now we're looking at where in our life is there too much clutter? And here is his strength. And this is interesting because what strength is coming in to say is and I find it interesting following the Knight of Swords, right? The knights are the battlers. They are the ones that go out and they fight the fight. They never start the fight. They fight the fight to end and to win for their king and their queen and the government, right? So this is the military side of communication. And then strength comes in. And when we're looking at where there's too much clutter around this idea that we have to be strong, that we have to be courageous, that we have to be brute forcing our way forward and moving forward. And when that happens, the clutter that we pick up is the clutter of commitment, and it's the clutter around having too many things to do. And we feel, well, we have to be strong, and the only way that we know that we're strong is if we can endure all of these kinds of things. And enduring and forcing, these are words that are foreign to spirit. Spirit flows and spirit opens. And so what we need to do is we need to start clearing that clutter away in a very kind and compassionate way. What I really like about this in this reading is I look at the white tiger here as the spirit, right? That primal spirit. And here she is. She's just basically basking in the glow of it. And the face on this tiger is sheer bliss and joy, right? Just being recognized. And I think that that's one of the things that we need to do is we need to start to be more kind and compassionate with ourselves and really be able to kind of start to say, we need to let this go. We need to let this go. Then we ask, where in your life is there too much movement? And here we have, let's see, 19. So here's the sun. And the sun is saying, right? Like I think the sun is an interesting one because when you look at the sun in the center of the solar system, everything is moving around the sun. And I think like when we're asking about this, are we the planets that are moving around, or are we the sun that's pretty stable with everything else moving around us? And so if we are constantly orbiting, we become a moving target kind of for spirit to be looking for us and to be able to land. And so it's really important for us to really look at what are the cycles that we're either in or out of. Because one of the things when we look at is there too much movement, we might be adding things into our lives that are out of sync, that are out of our own rhythm, that are out of our own capacity. And when we look at, these two major arcana cards, we've got strength here, and then we've got the sun here, and they're both about capacity, right? This is how much can you endure before you reach a breaking point, right? And in the sense of this spread is what I'm saying. And then the sun is how much can you distract yourself and move away from your normal regular rhythms before enough is enough, before you break, before you collapse. And so what we're looking at, and it's interesting because I believe that when I was talking about this, when I was talking about commitments and stuff like that, this is the same thing, right? Like, so here's the theme of what we're carrying over is if we're taking on way too many commitments and if we're distracting ourselves by all of the different ways that we can split our energy, split our focus, then, it's like we're trying to do the orbits of all the planets at the same time, instead of just sticking true to what's for us and understanding that there's no need to have all of these distractions, because what the distractions do is they hide the discomfort that we're feeling when we're sitting and we're waiting for spirit to show up. The next one we have is, where in your life is there too many people? Sorry, are there too many people? And interesting here, we have judgment. This is a lot of major arcana cards that we've had today. And what's really interesting is with judgment tends to be the card that says the universe is calling to you to step into your purpose. And I think what this is doing with the theme of what we have is, are you feeling that because there's maybe a disconnect or maybe there's a discomfort around your purpose and around your connection to spirit and to the universe at large, that you are chasing after the wrong purpose, right? When we're asking, especially because we're asking about where there are too many people in your lives, this is an indication that you might feel a calling for something. And what you're doing is you're finding now all of the gurus or the guides or the mentors that can help you to feel like that I'm on the right path because now I'm doing something, when instead it might be taking you away from what you really need to do. And maybe what you really need to do right now is just to sit and be quiet and to feel into what is around you and allow that to land, because no one else is going to know what your path is. No one else is going to know what that right thing is for you. So following someone else's path, following someone else's process might help to alleviate some of the discomfort, might help to give you some clarity, but the end of the path is always going to be determined by you and how you feel once you've gone through that. It's also important that we rely on what's showing up in our world as opposed to what someone else is telling us we need to be seeing. And the last card of the reading before we move to the one that fell is, where in your life is there too much noise? This is really what's going to block spirit from being able to be with us, is the amount of noise, because spirit speaks in whispers. It speaks in the ethereal. It speaks in the very, very fragile kind of ways. And so if there's too many people, if there's too much clutter, if there's too much movement, and if there's too much noise, spirit is drowned out. And so where in your life is there too much noise? And this is where it is, right? The Four of Swords. There's too much noise in the lack of rest, right? There's this, and I've said this many, many times before, there's this dirtiness that we hold around the idea of rest. And even though, like since we had the pandemic and stuff like that, people are hoisting the flags and getting on their soapbox about we need rest, we need self-care, we need all of this. And yet there's so few people that are doing it, I want to say, that are doing it in a restorative way, right? We can say, well, I'm going to exercise. We can say that I'm eating right. We can say like all the things that people say show that you're getting rest. The thing is if you're still feeling tired, if you're still feeling run down, if your brain is still running a million miles an hour, then the rest that you're getting is non-restorative. And if it's non-restorative, then you're just burning yourself out more and more and more. And the more tired you are, brain, body, heart, the more drained you are, the more fatigued you are, the more dense your energy is, and the harder it is for spirit to communicate. And as I said before, spirit speaks in very light, very wispy ways. And there's no way that they would be able to really go through that density to reach us. So we have to meet spirit at the threshold. And the threshold is there's a certain level of density that spirit is stopped at. And for us to meet spirit at that threshold, we have to rest. And we have to rest for the way that we need to rest, which is what this is all about. Right. And I think that's what brings us back here is where is spirit looking to land? Spirit is looking to land in the ways that we can communicate and we can say are right for us. Right. Before we summarize, I will jump into the last one that we have. And isn't it interesting that we have the Seven of Cups choices, right? We have the choice to be quiet. We have the choice to be cluttered. We have the choice to move or to be still. We have the choice to have a lot of people that we're following, or we have the choice to choose to follow ourselves. We have the choice to have so much noise and so much, especially so much white noise around us, and we have the choice to be in the silence. And what we have to remember is that if we choose to declutter, if we choose to pause, if we choose to be alone, and if we choose silence, that is going to come with a great deal of discomfort as our bodies go through a self-regulation process in order to return to a baseline that is free of all of those things, because all of those things that spirit is being blocked from just floods our body with hormones that makes it much, much more chaotic within our system. And so what I find really, really interesting about this is that, so we have two swords. So there's a lot of conflict here. There's a lot of noise, if you will, because swords is the communication area. So there's a lot of speaking, and sometimes it's mind speak. I'll put that out there, right? It's not always necessarily that we're always engaged in conversations, but our mind is always, always racing. And it's important for us to find ways to slow the speed down, right? It's very rare. I've had a few occasions where my mind has been completely blank, but it's very, very rare. But I think what it is we need to slow the thoughts down enough so we can understand what's going on. And if we need to redirect them in a way that is healthy for us. We have one water card. And so the emotions are, the thoughts that we have, the communication that we have is really going to create some kind of confusion and muddiness within our emotions as well. So as we're making the choices, we have to understand that as we're making the choices that we need to make, especially if it's around rest, then there's going to be some emotions that are connected with that. And there are going to be probably some uncomfortable emotions that we need to be able to sit with. And unless we can sit with them until they settle, it's going to be very, very difficult for us to find that amount of space and peace. And then the biggest thing is we have three major arcana cards in this reading. So we have strength, we have the sun, and we have judgment. What I find interesting is as we drew the cards, they moved up. So strength is 8, and then we had 19 and 20. So what's going on right now is that these are some big things that we want to be looking at, right? Like we want to look at the clutter, we want to look at the movement, and we want to look at the people that we're in, because that's where this all falls into in our reading today. So it's really, really important that we're understanding that, we have the capacity to declutter our lives. And whatever the clutter is for you, whether it's you're committed to too many projects, whether you're in too many uh, groups and clubs. And I say this in the sense because I know cups is also kind of similar to that. But when I say it in this sense, what I'm also saying is that it's about where you're physically going, right? So if you look at your calendar and your calendar is constantly filled with things of I have to go here, I have to do this, there's this that's going on, that's the kind of clutter. And so we need to really be able to, instead of having this is where it's interesting, is that instead of having the strength to be able to say no to other people out there, we have to be able to have the strength to say yes to ourselves. And then again, with our energy, it's about bringing it back into a single focus and learning that, if we're staying up till like 12 o'clock at night because we have so many things that we're trying to get done, then we need to start letting some things go, because we also need to make sure that we're honoring the need for rest. And then again, it's whose path are you following, right? Judgment is a very powerful card when it comes to purpose and finding direction. And this one is asking, whose path are you following? Are you following your path, meaning are you giving yourself space, quiet time to be able to really feel what is right for you? Or are you in that chase with everybody else where you're chasing after the next person that's going to tell you, if you do this, you're going to make the money, or if you do this, you're going to find the clients, or if you do this, you're going to feel fabulous. Because I can tell you from years of chasing after all that kind of stuff, the only time that I've ever felt fabulous is when I've listened to my own heart and followed the little signposts that have been left for me along the way. So I hope that you enjoyed this reading. I hope there was something in it that has landed for you and that you can take from this reading one little thing that might help you to sit in the peace, to sit in the quiet. I know for myself, when I'm done the reading, my peace and quiet is going to be, I'm going to take my tea, I'm going to go and sit on the couch, I'm going to stare out the window at the birds, and I'm going to breathe. So I hope that you all find a moment to pause and breathe and see what spirit tickles or drops into your lap. And in the meantime, if you like the video, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you again on around the web. So take care.